right, folks, welcome. Welcome to today's Skill Up series. My name is Emily Sprenger. I'm an academic trainer in the Graduate Studies Support Center, formerly known as the Center for Teaching and Learning. And we have moved our series to provide sessions that help you with your academic journey, tools, strategies, suggestions for success in your journey. So we are in a meeting format. I will just remind everybody to stay muted unless called upon. I am recording our session as always, and I'm very excited that Dr. Linda Collins came today to present Power Up Your Presentation Using PowerPoint. So Dr. Collins is going to be doing an interactive session this evening. So there are going to be some polls that we launch. So get ready to participate in that regard. And then of course our chat, we would love if you ask your questions in the chat, and we can get to that as time permits. So I think that about does my housekeeping items for this evening. If you need me, find me in the chat, but I know there's a lot to cover today, and I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to one of our very own faculty members from the Stanford College of Education, Dr. Linda Collins.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good tomorrow. I actually have a student that lives in Guam, so she always tells me what's going on there tomorrow, so we know how our day will go. Well, I appreciate you all coming today. I'm really excited. I love PowerPoint. It's a lot of different fun things. I had a little technical difficulties getting in because I do live by Murphy's Law. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's sunny, not sunny. It's really rainy, and that we are getting the tail end of an atmospheric river from California, which used to be called the Pineapple Express, I guess. So whatever it is, I'm here, but I have two computers up. I have two different internet connections, so I think I got it, maybe, kind of, sort of. And I also sent a copy to Emily Sprenger, just in case. So if all that stuff goes down, hey, we'll get it figured out one way or the other. So again, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of interactive stuff going on today. And also, if you have some questions, you can put them in the chat session. I will be moving from one PowerPoint presentation to another. One is presenting, the other one is demonstrating. And so sometimes Zoom gets a little quirky and cursors disappear, but we're going to do the best we can, and it will be great. So here we are. Power up your presentations using PowerPoint. You like this? Isn't that great? You ready to go, everybody? Yeah, okay. So here we go. How to create the best presentations for education. Take a look at this and think about how much fun this could be. And we've got everything going on there, right? So I think the first thing we're going to do here before we move forward is I'm going to ask Emily to bring up our first poll.
You got it. Experience with PowerPoint first?
Yes.
Okay. All right, folks, so I'm going to go ahead and launch our experience with PowerPoint. Have you created a PowerPoint presentation before? Yes or no answer. And we will see. Okay. All right, Dr. Collins, I think this is fair. We're at approximately 90% of folks participating. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Our poll shows that approximately 50 participants on today's call have used a PowerPoint. One brave soul said, no, I have not.
That's okay. That's kind of why you're here. It's kind of like the graduate students will say, I'm not sure. And I'll say, well, that's because you haven't done it before. If you had, you'd already have a doctoral degree. So absolutely. So anyway, taking a look at this is probably one of your favorite PowerPoint slides because it has a lot of really cool stuff on it. Is it? But think about it a little bit, because there are a lot of things that are on this slide that might be fun, but might not be fun. I call this my hamburger slide because it is green for lettuce, brown for the hamburger, tan for the bun, and red for ketchup, and yellow for mustard. And that's about the best you can do with this. Now, are there things on here that are valuable? Yeah, we're going to take a concept and put it into a slide, meaning we're going to actually have an exercise to do. We are going to insert and size images using transitions, all kinds of nice stuff. You can see that I have changed the little dots, the bullets, into mortarboards, because isn't that cute? And all these other things. So, and I've got a Disney font that I'm using because I just love all this stuff and it just gets so exciting, right? So we want this to be best in class, but we'll see. Okay, so we've seen those two. We just want to say, please make this stop. No more death by PowerPoint ever again. So those are just those entry kind of PowerPoint slides that you've probably seen somewhere before, where, you know, you get excited about putting your PowerPoint together, and so you try everything. I want to try all the transitions, all the colors, all the pictures, all the fonts, because they're cool. And you can do that, but you should probably do it one presentation at a time. Otherwise, as you saw before, that gets a little confusing, especially that welcome going back and forth. We love animations, but kind of weird. Okay, here's the presentation. Welcome to Power Up Your PowerPoint presentation. And again, I'm Linda Collins, and I have been an instructor and a dissertation chair here at NU for about 15 years. So I'm excited to be here today. But most importantly, we're doing two things here. I'm doing a presentation, but I'm also going to explain the presentation and why I decided to do certain things. This slide is pretty calm background. There's not a lot going on. We have the blue, and then it kind of fades to the green toward the right-hand bottom of the presentation. I decided to select this option here because we're talking about power up your presentations, and this kind of gives you that power up mode. So you kind of want to design these so it encapsulates kind of what your thoughts are. And then, of course, I put my name there and what my title is and National University. If I was presenting at a conference such as the Online Learning Consortium or whatever, I probably would put the conference that I was at. I might even put the room that I was in or whatever, because this is really kind of your kickoff foundational page and a good place to start. So if you had to think about it, and this isn't a poll question for you or anything, but just be thinking about it. Does this kind of give a better sense for what the presentation is going to be about, except for maybe some of the other things when you compare it to this page? Because, you know, that's an intro page too. Okay, so here's a quick overview. We're going to talk a little bit about what is PowerPoint. We do have one person who has not used PowerPoint before. Plus, there's some things in PowerPoint that you might not know about. PowerPoint is very, very powerful. And we tend to, I know I do, when I need to go in and use a software package, I use what I have to use. But then I don't even go in and look at other things because it's like, I know how to do this. I can get in there, I can make it happen. And there are some other features that you may or may not have heard about that you might enjoy looking at. We'll also look at themes, templates, and layout. And it's really interesting because they seem as if they might be similar. Well, they are similar. Are they the same? Not always the same. So there's a lot of maybe differences we'll take a look at. We're going to look at fonts and font colors, and there's actually rules for using fonts and font colors, and it goes beyond kind of just what I like or maybe the colors of my school, but there's some ADA things using fonts and font colors and sizes and so forth. Inserting and sizing images, which is always fun, and also show you a little bit about if there is an image that you can change the color on, or you can change the background on. We'll do a little bit of that. We'll talk about slide transitions, and who doesn't love slide transitions? Those are the things that happen in between slides where either the slide flies in, flies out, crunches up, all kinds of things. We'll also look at animations a little bit. You already saw an animation with that lovely little welcome animation. We'll talk a little bit about speaker's notes, creating a slideshow that really runs all by itself, concept to a slide, rehearsal and recording, and then we'll get into the summary and questions. We'll just kind of summarize what we've done today. And then if there's any questions, also Emily is going to be there monitoring the chat session if anything comes up that we need to stop for, and do a few things with that. All right, so PowerPoint, I just loved it when it first came out. I was like, yay, I can do all kinds of fun stuff. I'm really an artsy person and everything. But it really is a great tool. One of the first in the Microsoft suite. We had Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And we use it to make presentations so that you don't have to draw things anymore, so that you don't have to create them in Word and try to figure out a way to display them. And it goes way beyond that because you can have audio, video, take all of that, put it together. You can save it. You've recorded it, and then you can also, using OneDrive, you can share it with somebody else, and they can go in and you guys can work together on the presentation. So really, it's quite neat. Now, if there's any Mac users out there, you do have PowerPoint for Mac as well. It's a little bit different than the one that we're looking at right now, which is for PCs, but it's very, very similar. If you don't have the Microsoft Office suite, but I think most everybody does because we get it from the school, and you have a Mac, then you might have a different kind of presentation package that comes directly with the Mac, and it's called Keynote. And so you may have been using that as well. So if you're watching this today and you've only really used Keynote before, you're going to get the gist of doing presentations, but Keynote is set up a little bit differently. And instead of slides, they call them stacks and different things such as that, but you'll get the gist of it. We're going to start out with themes, templates, and layouts. And these are all really fun things to do. Of course, I mean, I like to do them. It's something that everybody's going to get used to doing when you're with PowerPoint, because if you bring up your PowerPoint presentation for the very first time, you're going to have a blank page unless you've already selected something. So who wants to do everything on all white? Maybe, maybe not. So I'm going to show you right here that here's some themes that you can see up here. And when we're talking about themes, it means somebody's already put together a little package for you that has a colored background, different fonts that you can use, different colors and everything. So you don't have to predetermine all of that. We're also going to talk about layouts, and what layouts are options on how you want the information to appear. So for example, my layout for this slide is I have the title and then, excuse me, I have a bulleted list. I could have selected a layout title with a video, or I could have just had 2 columns. And when you do these layouts, it automatically sets it up for you and you don't have to worry about formatting. And then I'm going to show you templates using Search Gallery. And that's when you're starting to create a presentation. There's a lot of templates that you can choose from. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing because we're going to go to a practice template. And we're going to cross our fingers that it works because that's what it's there for, but sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. But excuse me. So here we are. There's that lovely slide again. But this is where we're going to be practicing. And what I'm going to show you right now is we're going to go ahead and go here up to the very top. Because can everybody see this or not? New share is,
yes.
Is new share working? Okay, good. So we're looking at the poor little guy there that's like, stop making this happen. We're going to go up to home and over to new slide, and I'm going to get a blank slide. So now I have a blank slide. It also has some background on it. The background is there because that was the original template. But if I want to do this without that back on there, I can get rid of that. I can reformat it. What I've done is, hold on, it's not coming up, but what you can do is you can reformat your font by going over to making a selection to get rid of that background. And we'll do that in a little bit. It says, that should be okay. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is I'm going to show you how to do a design. Those are the themes that you were looking at before. And the designs that you can use are anything that goes across here. So if we selected a design, you notice that everything changed. And everything didn't just change on this slide, but it changed everything on the entire presentation. We can try another one. This is the one that we've been using up here in the blue. Let's try this one. And now you can see that everything has a new attribution. So you can make those changes anytime that you want. The only thing that you want to know about making these changes is fonts may change. And so things may not look all the same that you want them to look, but you can go back in there and just know that you need to do that and you can make those changes. Now, this is one of my most favorite things in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, you name it. It's called the, anybody know what this is? It's the undo button. I didn't want that. Make it stop.
And Dr. Collins, if you wouldn't mind, see how you're able to expand. I'm sorry to interrupt you. See how you're able to enlarge it down at the bottom just to make it a little bit larger for us to see. Oh, okay. I was wondering if the screen itself could get a little bit larger. Not a problem.
I'm not sure if I can. I've tried it on here, but I'm not
That's
sure.
okay. Not a problem.
Okay, well, I can if I do this. If I go into presentation mode, but then I can't edit.
Then you can't edit. That's okay. It's not a big problem.
Does
Thank
it look
you.
all right like this?
Yeah, it looks good.
Mode?
Okay, well, good. Now, next thing I want to show you is that layout that I was talking to you about. So we're going to go over and I'm going to insert that new slide again because I didn't have that slide since I did an undo to everything. So we're going to go to home and go to layout and see all the different options that you have. So we have a title slide, title and content, section header, to content, comparison, and so forth. So I'm going to select the comparison and notice how it brings it up. It also has it that it's already formatted. I can click right here to add a title. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. And notice that it also has the attribute of the colored font. It has a different type of font there. And then you can also continue to click to add text here, additional text over here. And then what this is here is you can select any of these to maybe put a video in here. You could put a spreadsheet or a table here. There's all kinds of things that you can do so that you don't have to create this all by yourself. So I can do this table by clicking on the table that I have and say how many columns and how many rows and click on it and it sets it right up for me. And so you're going to be able to do that. So we've looked at the design and we've looked at the layout. The next thing, and I'm sorry if this is going too quickly, but we will have this recorded for you to look at later. The next thing that I'd like to show you is setting up a new presentation, and your new presentation is going to contain options for a template. So you can, excuse me, you see that we're at home right now saying good afternoon because I happen to be in Arizona. My friend in Guam is probably good morning tomorrow. These are all my presentations that I have. But if you go down to new, it shows you a lot of things that you could use for a new template. If you don't see what you like, you can type something in. Does anybody quickly have something that they'd like to search for a template?
A grocery list?
A grocery list? Well, I don't know if we have grocery lists in here, but we could search for grocery. Let's see what we have. Okay, so here's produce design. Well, let's go ahead and select that. And it's going to say it's a food template, excellent slideshow, going to give you all that if you're a grocer, a restaurant, or whatever. And it's going to tell you how large it is and ask you if you'd like to create it. So you click to create it. And there we are. And there's your template. And this is set for you. You can do a file and save as to keep it. Here we can say grocery list. And it will be there. And then you can go on to the next ones.
Oh, Dr. Collins, I think you're showing the wrong PowerPoint.
Oh,
It
let me
shows
go
our,
ahead.
no worries.
Okay, let's go ahead and stop that share. And
Maybe that might happen with the toggle back and forth.
all right, can you see it now?
There it is. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so that's going to set you up with probably all the slides that you would need to do your grocery list here, and then you can go from one to the other. Are you seeing as I'm going from one slide to the next?
Yes.
And so you can put different information in here. You could put different icons in here. You could put words in here if you want. And you notice it already is setting you up for a chart. All of this can be changed to, you could say grocery list. You could change this to anything else, how many apples that you were buying, anything else that you'd like to do. And this is just one of thousands that you can look for. There's probably, I would say, at least 400 or 500 of these that you could take a look at and customize and do different backgrounds. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this. We're going to go back to our original PowerPoint presentation. And hopefully everybody can see that again. Okay,
Yes.
so we talked about themes, layouts, and templates, and they are kind of interactive themselves, but the template is what is that overall big template that's created. The layouts are the slides that you can select within your presentation, and then the themes give you those background colors and the fonts. Next are fonts, and fonts are fun to play with. I've got all kinds of fonts, and not only do you have the fonts that come with PowerPoint, but you can actually go and download new ones or upload new ones into PowerPoint if you find them. Some of them cost money, some of them are free, but the ones that are free to use, they just come right in with the rest of the fonts. But something that's really important to know about fonts is that, especially for presentation, there are two different kinds of fonts. There's the sans serif font and the serif font. And that means that the sans itself means without. So sans serif means without and serif means with. So if you take a look at these here in this kind of middle area here, we have a sans serif font, a serif font, and then it shows you what that serif means. When it's serif, it means it's got those little extra lines or squiggles or whatever with the font. So a font such as Arial doesn't have that. Fonts such as Times New Roman has that kind of the little extra little wiggles and stuff like that. When you're doing PowerPoint presentations, you can use any font that you want. I mean, I have a Disney font I use, and it's got more than serif, all the serifs that you want. But if you're doing a presentation for a lot of people and you're putting it on a big screen, the most readable fonts are the sans serif fonts, such as Arial, because they stand out a lot better. And then in addition to that, then you have all the different size fonts that you might want to have, including font size 1. Can anybody even see font size 1? It's so small, it's crazy. And then you can go all the way up to like 50, 60, 70 points, especially in a presentation. So those are the fonts that you can choose from. When you go up to select your fonts, you're going to see a list, and they're also going to show you not just the list, but kind of what they look like if you were to use them. So you don't have to also see them all in Arial and wonder why, well, I don't know what it'll look like until I put it in my presentation. Okay, so the next one is using images, and who doesn't like to use images? I love using images. I'm not sure that we would need all of these images in one presentation on one slide because they don't even match, except maybe you'd be drinking a cup of coffee while you're watching the balloon and thinking in your mind about scholarship while you're sitting by the ocean. But it gets a little busy, but what I do want to talk to you about today is how to use the images. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing again so that I can go back to our practice presentation, and hopefully I'll get it right this time.
That's okay. And Dr. Collins, while you do that, if you don't mind, are you going to be able to touch on how you cite a photo properly in PowerPoint as well too?
How what? Please say again.
How to cite properly a photo in
Oh, cite a
PowerPoint?
photo. Yes. And actually I have that on our resources page.
Great.
but you can also cite it within the slide as well. So I think I might have that too. Okay, so we're back over and I'm hoping that I'm sharing. Are you seeing the right share here?
Yes, indeed.
Yay, it's working, it's working. So again, I'm going to go back over to home and I'm going to do a new slide. And I'm probably going to go to design, or we'll go back to home and we'll select our layout, and I'm going to put blank here. So it's blank. There's really a great piece of this is making sure if you are using a photo or you're using a picture and you found it anywhere, it's like anything else. If you're looking at it on the internet, it may have copyright. And that's something that you have to be really careful with. Now, most of everything that I have here today is either my own stuff or it is through Creative Commons. But Creative Commons also requests different types of attribution. And what attribution is saying where you got it, who you got it from, and it's okay to use it. And everything that I have today from Creative Commons, it basically says use it if you want. But I do have it on my references pages, the ones that I have used. You can also put citations underneath the photo or the picture on the exact page that you're using as well.
I was taught, Dr. Collins, that pictures are often very abstract and sometimes in presentations. And this is when on the lower tier of my education. So how many pictures are we to have in a PowerPoint presentation to make sure that we don't give off the wrong message as students?
Well, I think that's really a great question. And I'm not sure if it's giving the wrong message, but it might be mixed messages if we have too many pictures in there. But most importantly, what you want to do with the presentation is you want the people that are attending your presentation to pay attention to you and to pay attention to what you're talking about and not so much the slide that's on the screen. Because a lot of times, I don't know about you, but I have seen these before where there have been presentations with about 180 words on it and the presenter reads the words. So you're reading with the presenter, they're reading to you, but you're not paying attention necessarily about what's going on with the presenter. So we're going to go ahead and insert a picture. To insert a picture or image, you would go up to the Insert tab. You're going to go over to Pictures. You're going to click on, I'm going to click on Online Pictures because we can search for a lot of stuff that way. And it's going to load all the pictures. You have to be connected to the internet to get to this. You can either search for pictures or you can find a grouping of pictures that you might be interested in that you could bring it in. So for example, we'll click on the one that says meeting. Maybe we want this to stand out at the very top. So we might want to select this one, or maybe we just want to show a group of people who are meeting, or maybe we want to show an entire audience. So I'm going to select this one here for the audience. You know it's selected because there's a red check mark up there. And then you just click on Insert. Which, yeah, my cursor's acting a little bit funny. Now, the pictures that are being presented by Microsoft should not have to be vetted because they are already within Microsoft. If you, especially the ones that, if we come over here and take that off. If we come over here and we do an insert and we go to pictures and it says stock images, we don't have to provide attribution for those images. That means they're already owned by Microsoft. That means we already paid to have Microsoft as part of our software package. And so we're okay to use any of these. So we like the little kitties. We can bring the kitties in and we can use those without attribution. And Emily, if I'm misspeaking on any of these, because you have this experience too, jump on in.
My understanding is the stock images. Yeah, you're correct. That's my understanding.
We're good to go with those.
I have a question. So if you're using a stock image, do you still need to cite it on the reference page?
No. If those already come with Microsoft, you should not have to do a citation because those have already been vetted and you don't own the image, but the image is part of that software package that you've been using. Emily, is that
thank
your
you.
understanding too?
That's also my understanding.
So I haven't had any problems with doing that at all. It's really when you go out and let's say that you go out to a site location and maybe you're doing your dissertation on online learning and you go out to a site and you find a great site about online learning and they've got all kinds of pictures in there, students that are remotely doing this. And then you go, I got to use that picture. There's certain things that you have to do. One is you need to check to see if it's open source, that you can use it and to see what it says there and it's all right to use it. If it says you cannot use it without permission, you have to send an email to the creator, to the publisher or whatever and say, I'm in education. I'd really love to use it. Can you please let me know if you give me permission? Then they actually need to send you a letter of permission to be able to use it. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Especially publishers of textbooks don't always give that permission because they sell those textbooks. So it just really depends. I think it's just really best, if possible, to do this if you can, because you can usually find something. But if you really have something that you just think is great, then you need to send that letter and keep the letter and then give them attribution, meaning you need to cite it and tell them where you got it from and by permission of.
Okay, so if we did get permission, are you saying that we need to include the letter in the reference or just hang on to it?
Hang on
Just
to the
in case
letter,
it's
but
needed later. Okay, I just wanted to verify. Okay,
you
thank you.
hang on to the reference, but you do put a citation after your picture by permission from, and you put the author or whatever they request. They could request a lot of things. They could say, you need to put that underneath as a caption. You need to put it on the reference page. You need to say my full name. You need to say that I work for National University. So there's not really a stock attribution. It's what they tell you that they want to hear and see if they're going to let you use it. And it could even say you can use it only for educational purposes. You can only use it for one presentation. So it can be whatever they want to set up. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. So just quickly, because I know we're running short on time, I'm just going to show you, you can do all kinds of stuff with images. You see that there's like all these little dots here. Well, you can do this with dots. You can do these with text boxes. You can size. You can go up here and when it turns into 2 arrows, click and make it smaller or make it larger. And this here, you can turn it if you want. You get up here where the handle is, you can make it this way or this way. Don't do that a lot with pictures, but we do a lot with text boxes. So I won't spend a lot more time on this because we want to keep moving so we can get through the entire presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing with our working presentation. And then we're going to go back to our original slideshow presentation. Does everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll just continue. I'm learning a lot about Zoom and PowerPoint and going from one slide to the next when you're using more than one presentation, it kind of gets, what am I doing? Okay, using and formatting text boxes. And text boxes generally come preset when you're using a template and you go in and you click and you can use that text box. But if you want to create your own text box, you can do that as well. And so I'm going to try and do this really quickly. I'm going to go back to where we were in our practice template and share that. And I'll show you how to do a text box. You want to come up to the tabs, go to Insert. And once you have Insert, you want to go over here where it says text box. You can click on that. And then when you're in the slide, decide where you want that text box. You draw it. And then it appears on your slide. And it's really not limited, as the more you type, the more it will expand. So it's going to keep going. So Emily, I think we're maybe time for one more poll because we're running short on time. Let's go ahead and take the second one.
So the second one has us looking at how many issues are on the design or on the slide. It's our
Okay.
design opportunities. Would you like me to do that one?
You know what? Let's go ahead and go to the next one.
Okay, what takes the most time?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, folks, get ready for one more poll today. What takes the most time? I'm going to launch it. Hopefully you can see it on your screen. What takes the most time in creating a presentation? Deciding on a presentation theme, creating an outline, picking a font, or adding transitions. And feel free to participate if that works for you. And I think we've got about 70% folks participated. So it's okay if you want to pop your answer in the chat, but I am going to close it in the interest of time. And then I'll share the results out.
Wow. Okay. That's really spread out all over the place. So we always kind of look at this when we get started with PowerPoint. What do we need to do? Even when we're creating a Word document, you got to have planning and everything. And these are all really great things to look at. For me, it's deciding on a presentation theme. I take forever. Oh, is this right? Is it going to work? I go back and forth. So there's a lot of things that go into this. But what we're talking about here isn't even the content. It's actually those decisions that you're making just to get started and your design. So thank you for participating in that. Okay, now we're going to talk about slide transitions. And Emily, how much time do we have left?
We've got about 20 minutes, so we could do the transition poll if you want.
Okay, let's do the transitions. This is a lot
Okay.
of fun. And there are a lot of transitions, and what these are, and I talked about that just a little bit at the beginning, and we have another poll. Should we do, you want to do the poll right now or after?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was doing the true or false. Is it best to use a different transition on each slide? I'm sorry, Dr. Collins. I thought you wanted me to launch it.
Yes.
All right, we'll launch it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's a true or false. Is it best to use a different transition on each slide?
Because you see, we got probably 40 different transitions. Drape, curtains, random origami. The origami one's kind of weird looking, but it's cool.
Okay, and I think we've got about, and someone just mentioned it depends on the slide and what comes next. Okay, true or false? Is it best to use a different transition on each slide? I've got about 75% of folks participated, so I'm going to end the poll so you can see, Dr. Collins, the result, and I'll share that one.
Okay, true or false? Is it best to use a different transition on each slide? Okay. And this is a very interesting question because when you get going with the transitions and somebody said it depends on the slide and so forth, and that's true. But again, when we're doing a PowerPoint presentation or any kind of a presentation, we want this to be as transparent as possible, what we're doing. We don't want it to be interrupting. We want to be consistent. And if we have a transition on every slide, people are going to go, I wonder which one's going to be next. And they may not be paying attention and they just kind of go all over the place. So for the most part, it's best to use one transition per presentation. But if you want to try more of them, you can certainly do it, but it just helps with the flow. So having seen that, let's go and take a look at a couple of these and we will see what you think. Okay, we're back with our kitties and the people in a meeting here. We're going to take a look at transitions. To go to transitions, you go to the top, you go to the transitions tab, and then here are the plethora of transitions that you can look at. And if I click on them, you can see an example of the transitions. There's the wind blowing one away. I got to show you the origami one. Everybody ready? And then it takes you to the next slide. Is that cool? So there's so many things there. And that's why it takes so long to do these presentations, because like, oh, I want to do this one. I want to do that one. So you can choose which ones you want to do. Now, once you have decided which one that you want to do. And if you're only going to do one, you can look all the way over here and it says apply all. And you can click on that and then it will apply it to every one of the slides. But if you're in one of those kind of creative modes and you just want to put one on each slide, you can go one by one by one and do that all the way through. But they're just kind of fun, aren't they? The other thing that you can do with these is you can add sound. So that one that you just saw that crushed, you could add like a crushing sound and it would be like as you go to the next slide. And you can also do duration if it's going to take 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, however you want. So this is a lot of fun. I won't stay on this. Now, was everybody able to see that? Okay. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to go back to our original PowerPoint slideshow. And if anybody has questions about PowerPoint, you want to get in touch with me, you certainly can do that. I've taught PowerPoint for many years, so I will give you my phone number at the end of the presentation. Is everybody seeing the presentation that we have? And it says the concept. Yes. Okay, we're gonna go back to this. Okay. Now, this is where we're getting into the question and what we're doing. We all have heard about dissertations, and we've all heard about oral defenses. And what a lot of students do for their oral defense will be a PowerPoint presentation. There are a lot of other things you can do. You can do a poster presentation. There's other things. But for the intent of this presentation today, we are going to talk about making an oral defense. So you need to create a PowerPoint presentation for your oral defense. There's a template to use with instructions. What do you do? Now, there's a lot of different things you can think about, but I'm going to show you the next slide and I'll let you know how you can do these things and still get your thought across without putting a lot of things on the slide. Okay, this is what it's telling you to do. It's an introduction. You need to provide brief introductory remarks from your introduction of chapter 1. You want to provide an overview of your topic, larger context, overview of why the research topic is relevant, and briefly explain what research has been done already on this topic. But you don't need to have it all typed out on your slide. You need to briefly remark about these things and give all of the information. So by the way, this is from the NCU dissertation or the NU dissertation template in the School of Education. So that's my attribution for that. So here's what you can do. This is distilling the information from or for your slide. So we already know what it told us to do, right? We already know what we need to provide, but this is an example of what you could put in there. The name and title of your dissertation, a little bit about the research topic, little about what the problems were or the different viewpoints. And that's okay, as long as then you address it in the notes field. And that's something that you can either read out loud, and they're not going to see it up here, and they will be gaining that information while seeing this small amount of information as you go through it. Because what happens now when I do it this way, they pay more attention to me and to my topic than reading all of this stuff. So that's just kind of an example of how you can do that. And I don't think we're going to have time to go to the notes field today. How are we doing, Emily?
We have about 13 minutes. We did have several, about 4 or 5 questions that popped up, but.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and go on. But I will tell you, if y'all want to, or anybody has any questions and stuff, then I will give you my email address. And if you want to ask questions or you want a demo, I would be happy to do that because I love doing that. So here we are rehearsing for the event, practicing, recording, and sharing. And I love that image there, like all the purple stuff going on and somebody rehearsing for that next march down in New Orleans or something. And then this is where I selected 2 different images because I think they went together, practicing and then recording. In PowerPoint, you can record. When you go back into PowerPoint, you'll see that there's a little record button at the upper right-hand corner. That's not recording for Zoom, it's actually recording the PowerPoint. You can record PowerPoint with your voice. You can also have a little oval or circle at the very bottom, and it will show you presenting. So it will, if you have your camera on, you can present. It'll show a picture of you while you present live, real time as it's recording, as well as going through your presentation. So it's quite fun to be able to do that. And then sharing, I mentioned a little bit about it before, you can share this on the OneDrive, and you can go in and collaborate together. Okay, here are the resources that I had used. And so you can see right here, I have the animated images, Creative Commons. They even have unknown author. Right here is another thing that you can take a look at is Microsoft has free PowerPoint training. And by the way, I am not affiliated with Microsoft or anything. I am a Microsoft Office specialist, certified in Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, but those are certifications that you test for, and then you have these certifications. So I'm not here to sell anything or whatever, but this is just Microsoft stuff you can look at. And then here's another Creative Commons. That's where I got that sans serif information from. So here is the wrap up and any questions that you might have. I've enjoyed this today. I love doing it. I hope I've been able to provide you with some new and different information today. So let's go ahead and take some questions.
Absolutely. And hopefully if we do have a tiny bit of time at the end, we can maybe touch on the speaker note piece. But first, I'm going to go through the questions, and then keep in mind, as Dr. Collins said, you know, if we can't get to something in the time that's permitted, we can carry on this conversation in the Commons, or we can contact her directly. So the very first question I have for you, Dr. Collins, is, do you make copies in black and white for anyone who is colorblind? I have a student who can't see red or green. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm so glad that you asked that. I've worked with students my entire career with disability resource services, and also for ADA compliancy. And there are a lot of different ways that you can do this. And a lot of times the student will tell you what works best for them. And you can check that out. So sometimes students need to have it larger, and you could see that we can enlarge this a little bit more. Students that are colorblind, yes, the red and the green, and kind of like that hamburger slide is just not a great slide. But and I currently have some students that need resources and things like that. So it's usually best to ask them. They may have a different type of screen reader as well if they need to have something read to them and have it set up. I always and when you're working with students, you always want to make sure they know that there's resources available to them, but you never suggest that they need them. They need to make that decision, and then they will tell you. But if it's black and white, absolutely. You can make copies for them. You can do a save as and turn this all to black and white, send it to the student. Or if they prefer to have it black and white and then print it out, they can do that as well. So thank you for your question.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm still just going down the list of the questions that I received in the chat. So the next one is, how do we know, this goes back to the images, how do we know if it's an open source? Could you just kind of clarify a tad bit on that piece for the images?
I think that's a great question too. And a lot of times when you're doing maybe a Bing search for images and things like that, it comes up with all different types of pictures. And it says right at the bottom, this may be copyrighted. So you need to actually go to that site and see what the rules are there, see what they have to say. A lot of times it'll just say free to use. Other times it will say with attribution, or if it doesn't say anything, that probably means you need to send that letter if you really want to use it and ask for permission. And sometimes the permission needs to go to the school. Sometimes the permission needs to go to the author. Sometimes it needs to go to both, but that's where you start with your questions.
Okay, thank you so much for that one, Dr. Collins. The next question that I have is, if you have a picture from a subscription you are paying for, do you have to provide the citation, the attribution, if you have a subscription and you're paying for that
Do you mean if you have a subscription for the actual picture or for a book or something?
Okay, that is a great question. Whoever asked that question, excuse me, I copy pasted it, so I can't say who the student was. Can you unmute yourself so you can give clarification on that piece?
Yes,
you are.
for the, thank you. For the picture, for example, if you have a subscription to, say, Adobe or Canva, and yeah, you have the photos that are available.
Yes, and that's a great question. When in doubt, always ask. But generally, when you do have a subscription, then you are allowed to use it as much as you want, but you may not be allowed to put it in a book and sell it. You may not be allowed to use it broadly across maybe a lot of different classes. So always, that's why they have those terms. When you purchase those subscriptions, find out what those terms are and use it accordingly. But generally, when you do have a subscription, you can use it all you want. Personal use, usually educational use. But if you're going to turn it into something in a book, you need to take a look at the terms and also contact them.
And thank you, Marie, for expanding on that piece. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, the next question that I have on my list is how do you create, oh, forgive me, I'm not sure I'm going to get this right, but how do you create circular layout with text and arrows? I'm sorry if I don't have all the context for that.
I was trying to find that one too. What is that again, please?
How do you create circular layout with text and arrows?
Hey, I'm not quite sure I understand what you
Okay.
mean, but if you're talking about having a circle as part of your layout and then putting text in it, you would have that circle created, and then you could do a text box in there, and you can also move to the front and move to the back. So if you decide you want to have that circle more to the front and your text to the back, you can do that, or text over the top of it. Did that answer the question, or could you clarify more?
Yes, somewhat answered the question. I was wondering how, if you wanted to, visually display something that happens in a continuum, like a circular hypothesis or so, how can you format it so that you have text and arrows that go in a circular motion? All the templates and layouts that I've seen don't quite do that. So I was just wondering, curious how you could easily do that.
Yes, you can do that. Now, that's not necessarily an animation. That's something that you can do in PowerPoint. And there are different things that you can do in Draw and Design. And if you want, like I said, I'm going to, my email address is lcollins@nu.edu. And I'd be happy to help you. I'm thinking it would take too much time to try to demonstrate that right now, but I'd be happy to help you. And there are some things that are already pre-created that you could use.
I just popped your email in the chat for
Perfect. Thank
folks. Let's see.
you. Ooh, smart art. I see a smart art there. I know. Pick
Oh,
me.
yes, someone was saying smart art. Did you want to touch on any smart art at all?
Yeah,
or?
it's really easy to use smart art. And smart art is located on the Insert tab. If you go to File, Home, Insert, Draw, you go to the Insert tab, and then you just kind of move over until you see it says Slides at the bottom, Tables, Images. The next one says Illustrations, and you click on Smart Art. And then it's going to let you put all kinds of stuff in there. And this is also where that cycle is that we were just talking about that you could go and take a look at. Let me see real quick.
So I popped that in the chat, Insert tab to Illustrations to Smart Art.
Yes. And if you want a demonstration, I'd be happy to show you. Just let me know, anybody that wants to see how that works, because it's really fun. And there's a lot of options that you can use.
Okay, great. I have two more questions that I managed to pull over onto my notes here. So forgive me if I missed something in the chat, but can you talk to us a little bit about uploading videos into PowerPoint? What are your thoughts? Like YouTube, or people often try to do that. What are your thoughts?
Perfect. I know how to do that. And when we were looking at this earlier, you saw that we had a box within a box. We had a box that we could put a title in, and we could put in additional information. And then there was a box within a box that had a picture of film, and it had a picture of a chart, and I created a little chart for you. If you click on the one that has the picture of the film, or if it's showing a movie camera, that's how it will take you out. You can select that video that you want and upload it. But I do want to caution you, if you're going to do something in YouTube or other places, they could be copyrighted. You may need to get permission to do that. Even though you're in YouTube and it even says, would you like to copy this? It doesn't mean you can do it without attribution. So just be really careful. All these things are really easy to do. It's whether or not you have permission to do them.
And I'm so glad you're bringing that up, Dr. Collins, because after doing webinars for the last 3 years, I've noticed when presenters put a YouTube video in, it can be really powerful and great. But the moment we go to try to upload it, it flags it for copyright.
Yes.
So keep that in mind as you're creating your presentations. I know that some of that material can be very powerful and engaging. But just keep that in mind. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Okay, so we didn't get into the speaker note piece today. There was a couple of questions about speaker notes. So maybe we can have that conversation in the comments, or I know Dr. Collins, I popped her email in the chat for you all. And of course, I can put that in my follow-up email to you all, but Dr. Collins, is there anything you would like to say in closing before we finish today?
I just want to tell you all, thank you so much for attending today. And, if there's, something that we didn't go over today and you really have a passion for it and you really want to know more about it, you want to contact me. I have no problem putting together a little Zoom session, and we can do that if there's like 2, 3, or 4 of you that would like to do that.
Absolutely. And then, of course, in the future, in respect to the Graduate Studies Support Center, we are always looking for ideas to help you be more successful in your journey. So at the end of this session, there will be a reminder for a survey, and please feel free to put in suggestions for future sessions. We are always looking to try to help you along in your academic journey. And that being said, you can always email me too. So we're open to your ideas and what it is that you need. So I'd like to thank all of our attendees today. We had several polls and a lot of engagement, and I will get this copy out to you. And Dr. Collins, thank you so much for taking the time to come and present and share some of your expertise here in the Skill Up series.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Take care.
Bye.